Good evening. A lot of energy in this room. It feels really, really good. All right, let's call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Well, welcome, everybody. It's good to see you. All right, we'll now go into our opening exercises, our moment of silence, and Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Rooks, do you mind leading us?
Yes. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mrs. Rooks. All right, moving on to Section 3, Address Agenda. Address Agenda and consider adoption or recommend changes. Board members, do I have any changes that you would like to make to this evening's agenda? Mrs. Rooks?
Yes, I'd like to pull 5.15 and 5.16.
Okay, Mrs. Ewing?
I don't have any, thank you.
I don't have any items either.
Mr.
Dr.
Sandoval?
Summers? Yes.
District Administration would recommend that we hold on item 8.1 and move that to another meeting.
Okay. Board members, any questions there?
No, no questions.
All right. That said, need a motion to approve this evening's agenda with 5.15 and 5.16 pulled from consent, along with the tabling of, sorry, Dr. Summers,
8.1.
8.1. Thank you.
I will motion to approve tonight's agenda minus 5.15 and 5.16 from consent agenda, along with 8.1 being tabled to the next meeting.
I'll second that. Board members cast your votes when the window pops up.
Clerk Sandoval, members of the board, and public, please allow me a moment to make those requested changes.
Of course.
Thank you for your patience. I am now ready to proceed.
Okay. And motion passes with 3 yeas and 1 absent. As a quick update, Ms. Proudfit will not be with us this evening, nor will she be with us remotely. So you have the 3 of us today. So thank you, board members. All right, moving on. Recognitions 4.1. Ms. Ari, welcome.
Well, good evening, governing board members, Mr. Sandoval, guests that have packed the room this evening. We are so glad you are all here for a really exciting recognition that we have to share with you tonight. Especially glad that we've got some guests. We don't normally allow standing room in our board meeting, but we've got standing room only, but we're so glad that every member of our community that's here tonight can take part in this really important celebration. So we've packed the room to celebrate our schools, our students, our employees, everyone in this school district who has contributed to the success of our district. If you haven't heard the good news, released by the Arizona Department of Education just recently, school letter grades as well as district grades. The Arizona Department of Education, ADE, measures year-to-year student academic growth, proficiency on English language arts, math, and science. The proficiency and academic growth of English language learners indicators that an elementary student is ready for success in high school and that high school students are ready to succeed in a career or higher education and high school graduation rates. And while this is just one measure of success, we know it's an important measure of success for our schools and for our community. Before we dive into some very noteworthy points of pride across the district, I am overjoyed to share, if you haven't heard, that the Peoria Unified School District is labeled an A school district. This is due to the hard work of so many, but of course, just really incredible work that takes place on each and every one of our 42 campuses. We just want to sing the praises of those who are working on our school campuses or working virtually with students each and every day, and those leaders especially who help to make it happen that have joined us tonight to represent so many others behind these labels. You know, we continue to hear from our community the importance of our focus on academic achievement, and what I'm going to share tonight is evidence that what we are doing is working, that all of the energy and effort that is taking place, not just from our leaders, from our employees, but our students are working so very hard in our classrooms. But it also just demonstrates that we're a district focused on continuous improvement. There's really so much to celebrate tonight. It's also going to be just a really great test of our leaders that are here in the room and paying attention, because as you hear me call out a celebration and it involves your school, or if you're here celebrating alongside that particular school, if you would stand when you hear me call it out. But I want to start by sharing that an impressive 95% of all Peoria Unified Schools received an A or B label. And this is up from 87%, which earned an A or B label last year, so a great achievement there. Some additional points of pride that we want to highlight: all 8 of Peoria Unified's high schools are A rated. So would our high schools please stand? They were a bit shy with those letters, but they've got them. And I know that they are very, very proud of them when we join in that celebration. Something else that is very tough to do, but if you kept your B or you kept your A this year, which is difficult, would you please stand? "28 Peoria Unified Schools increased their earned percentage points." If you increased your earned percentage points, would you please stand? And 15 schools increased by more than 5 points. So if you increased by more than 5 points, would you please stand? I told them they'd be getting a leg workout this evening. We also had schools that increased think we already went through that one. The 13 schools that increased their grade by one letter. So moved from a C to a B or from a B to an A. If you increased from a C to a B or from a B to an A, would you stand? Absolutely incredible. A few other just specific points of pride. There are so many to list, but only so much time tonight. So I just want to highlight a couple of schools in particular. Peoria Traditional Schools surpassed the state-provided 100-point scale, the highest ranking school by percentage points in our district, Peoria Traditional School. Let's give them a big round of applause. I also want to give a shout out to Desert Palms Elementary School. Wait for it. Increased their score by 18.62 points. And of course, moving them from a C to a B label. So we're very proud of them. At the high school level, Raymond S. Kellis High School gained 11 points, moving from a B to an A label. And a big shout out to Peoria Flex Academy, earning their first A label. I also want to shout out Lake Pleasant Elementary School, increased proficiency in ELA and math for every single grade level except just one. I know they'll get that one next year, so we want to give them a big shout out. And we also want to highlight Country Meadows Elementary School has been a C since 2018, now a B school. So much hard work. And particularly proud of Zuni Hills Elementary received an A label 2 consecutive years, and really big for some other achievements that they're working towards this year. So very proud of Zuni Hills. As I shared, we really could just go on and on about the incredible work. They each have some really specific points of pride, and we're just so proud of all of them for the hard work, for their learners, for the supportive community that they have around them. We've had newly adopted math and science curriculum that has been implemented in every single classroom, and we're just slowly starting to see such great gains. So we're just so proud of all of you. Would you all just stand for one more big round of applause? And I'd be remiss if we did not thank and recognize just a few others that are mostly behind the scenes supporting our schools. I want to begin by just sharing so much gratitude to our executive directors that support our schools, Ms. Bridgewater, Mr. Sheff, Mrs. Gonzalez, and Ms. Lopez-Lira. Can we give you a big round? And of course, want to also highlight so many others behind our academic teams, but led by Dr. Hernandez and Mr. Nuttall. Thank you so much for all you do. And before we turn it over to you, Mr. Sandoval, and to the rest of the board, want to see if Dr. Summers has any comments he'd like to add.
Thank you, Mrs. Airy. This is awesome. And it's not just because of an accomplishment, because success is so much more than an event. And it's so much more than even a letter grade. But as many of you know, and those of you that we've had the privilege of visiting recently, as well as those that we look forward to coming to soon, what you all do each and every day. And when I see it in your eyes as leaders, we know that through every set of interactions that you have with your students, staff members, families, a community that you support and you steward, The way that you show up is commendable. It is awe-inspiring, and it is really a privilege to be part of a team because success is also not an individual by individual effort. It's really a collective, and there's a cohesive team here that I know is up to every challenge that's in front of us. And so it's just an honor to see you all here. Thank you for making some time. As Mrs. Airy also said, packing the house, it's like a super cool thing to do. And to just shout you out and to celebrate all of you, and I know our board has some comments that they'll want to share here as well. It's nothing short of inspiring, and it's truly humbling to be part of you. So thank you again. Let's keep on going and stretch for what's next. Mr. Sandoval, turn it over to you.
Thank you for that, Dr. Summers. And Danielle, thank you as well for leading this line item. Board members, questions, comments? Ms. Rooks?
Well, it's hard to follow Dr. Summers after what he just said. So I would agree with him, though. Been touring the schools and just seeing the energy that you guys have at your schools with your students, with your staff, the excitement that you share about all of the wonderful things that you're doing at each school. And I know that a majority of you that I have spoken to when I've toured, you've really talked a lot about Miss Erin Gonzalez and what she's trying to help at the schools with the students, the teachers, the support. So I just want to say congratulations to all of you. And I look forward to touring the rest of the schools, and thank you, as not only as a board member, but as a parent. I appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you, Mrs. Rooks. Mrs. Ewing?
Thank you. It's humbling being in this room of all of these amazing, amazing leaders. So I appreciate everything you do for all of your students and your staff. The difference that you make in so many lives, it's just amazing. I'm sorry, I'm emotional because you guys do such amazing things. I think that as I've been touring along with Mrs. Rooks, Mr. Sandoval, and Ms. Proudfoot, it's just so amazing, all of the things that we're hearing and how hard of a work that you're doing. And I want to extend out to our community that if you ever think that our schools are not working on behalf of all of our learners, I welcome you in. I welcome you in to see what we're doing. We want your feedback. We want you to see the amazing things that we are doing. And so I commend you. Thank you so much. I also really, really appreciate the community that you've all built. And that's one theme that I have heard as I've been going around. I think since the last board meeting, I've been to about 20 schools. And that's not including how many he's been to, because he's been to a lot more than that. But community, and you have said that, it takes an entire community to make a school successful and to make our learners successful. And I know we as a board and as a district have a lot to learn about how can we create a united community around student success. And you continue to inspire me every day to try to create that community. So thank you, and thank you all.
Thank you, Mrs. Ewing. Yeah, it's great to see everybody's smiling faces in here. I always talk about the collective efficacy that exists across this entire district. And Danielle mentioned, it's one to get an A or a B, but maintain it. Not only are you maintaining, but you're also growing within those grades, which is just unparalleled. Dr. Summers, you talked about it being a collaborative effort. It does take a village. Each and every one of you in this room, our parents, our families, our students, of course, but even our staff, our food service, our maintenance teams, our bus drivers, everyone has an impact in some way on all of the young scholars that you touch on a daily basis. For me, it's, Peoria Unified is, what's even more impressive is that our district is open to all. and how each and every one of you lead with compassion and empathy and look beyond what's right in front of you to make sure that you're meeting students where they are, and make sure that every student has an equitable opportunity to be successful across this district. Danielle said it is working. You're doing a lot of great work. Yes, looking at these grades is one way to measure it, but the human skills that exist across our sites, across all of our students, is just unparalleled and amazing. You know, Mrs. Brooks and Mrs. Ewing, you know, talked about the site visits. I mean, when we're on these sites, it's one to talk to you and have that level of, you know, conversation, but when we're engaging with students as well, and they're also very articulate and confident, you know, I am absolutely just inspired by how our students are truly being developed and growing within Peoria Unified, you know, and ensuring that they are confident and successful as they navigate their own paths beyond our walls. So I want to say thank you. It has been, it continues to be an honor to sit in this seat alongside and serve individuals who wake up every day to lift up our youth. It is inspiring, and just thank you all for who you are, and just keep up the great work. Keep your hearts focused and centered, you know, on our students. And from a leadership perspective, those principals in this room, what you're doing to create nurturing, inspiring work environments for all of your associates, thank you for that. So thank you. Congratulations again. Okay, we will now move on to board comments. 4.2, Mrs. Brooks.
Yes, so speaking of tours, me and Melissa toured Canyon Elementary and Sunflower. It was a great experience. Just to have 3 of the students from Student Council was able to give us a tour of the schools, and it just was, I mean, it was wonderful. It was just, it's hard to describe when you're there on the campus and you can see the environment and what you have built, and then to also hear it from the 3 students. I think I really like when the schools do that, when they bring in the students so that we can see what the students are so excited about or what feedback they have. And we did a roundtable with 3 of the students, and that was just great to hear, you know, what they love about their school and what they love about the classroom and how the teacher is breaking things down for them so that they can understand the math lesson. So that was a great tour. Also, I was able to tour Desert Palms Elementary before that, and that was also a great experience. Me and Dr. Summers toured the school and took us through the classrooms, and she's smiling back there because I had the best experience there. One of the students, we went into the resource room, we met the resource teacher there, and he was amazing. I could just see the student that came in, I could see how he lit up with his teacher. Like, he just got excited to be in that room. And we got to able to have a conversation, me and Dr. Summers, with him, and talk about how he has just grown as a student, and he's playing football. He's the quarterback, and he's on student council. And Addison, Dr. Summers said I could say his name, he had so many ideas for his school. And when we asked him, what would you want for your school? It wasn't anything about himself. It would be great to have new sports equipment for my fellow classmates, for the basketball team, the new jersey. I mean, he just lit up with so many ideas. And he also said he wants to give teacher raises. So that was awesome. He's laughing.
You wrote that down, right?
I did.
I wrote that down too.
We wrote that down. We both wrote that down. So that was a great experience at that school. And then I was able to tour Sunset Heights Elementary yesterday with Dr. Summers, and David Sandoval was there as well. It was a great experience to see the new principal there and to see how he is, trying to come in and help in what ways that he can. And I could see that he was explaining all of the wonderful things that they're working on there. We were able to go into one of my old teachers' classrooms, Miss Thompson, from Frontier. That was a great experience to see her, and just I could see the teachers in the classrooms that we went to. You could see the learning, you could see the engagement with the students, and how they were just running smoothly in the classroom. I mean, it was amazing. After Sunset Heights, we toured right away. We drove right over to Liberty and met Melissa there. And Mr. Dogood had top shelf Mexican food for us, so that was pretty cool for lunch, because we're going from one tour to the next. So sorry. I'm sorry. So sorry. Yeah, we're going from one tour to the next. So it was really nice to, sorry if I let the cat out of the bag there.
We wrote that one down too, I think.
Okay. But it was also a great experience to be there for the tour that they set up there, because it was also My Life Day. And I know that was happening at all the school campuses. And it was great to go in and see all of the kids, excited to see what type of programs that are offered. And we even got to, Mr. Dogood gave a little embarrassment shout out to my son was there that day. So that was pretty cool experience to see the students and the teachers and the culinary. And I mean, it was so great. Also had Veterans Day. I know a lot of the schools, we all tried to make it out to the schools for Veterans Day. I was able to go to Desert Valley Elementary. We had the flag ceremony with Peoria High School ROTC cadets. They had the students all sing every song from military to Air Force to the Army. I mean, every single one. And it was all the students, all in the grass. We're all singing it together. So that was great. That was a great experience to see that. So thank you for that. And they had a parade set up, and they really honored their veterans that day. You could see all of the effort, all of the everything that was put together by the NJHS students. So thank you for that ceremony. I was very happy to be a part of it. I also did attend Visconsi Elementary. I was actually dropping my kids off, so I was able to be there at the same time, trying to juggle mom life and being a board member. And I want to say thank you to the NJHS students that put together a great Veterans Day ceremony, especially because that day was super windy and freezing, and all the kids were outside. So the way that they just put it together, Mrs. Bennett, I mean, she just kept with it. She kept it flowing. And Mrs. Griesel, the music teacher, she did a great performance with songs for the students. Miss Shanley, our band teacher, she put on a great performance with the band students, and all of the staff just trying to make sure the kids stay warm. They did move it inside to where the veterans got to walk through the hallways with all of the students. Every hallway was decorated. It was great. So 2 great school experiences. And the last thing I want to touch on is I wanted to say thank you to a teacher from Peoria Traditional. She got the highest scores with students in math testing. Trisha Chisnecka. I practiced that because I didn't want to mess up her last name. But I just want to say thank you to her. I know that she has worked really hard. I know she'll be retiring this year, and she is amazing with those students. And I just want her to know how much that I appreciate her, and I know that this district appreciates her. And that's my last comment.
Perfect. Thank you. Mrs. Ewing.
I don't think anybody wants me to go through my 20 schools that I visited, so I won't do that. But I will say a couple of things about some fun things when we've been out there is the way the kids have reacted to Dr. Summers' height. So, or just in general. And I think my favorite comment was a younger kid in I must have been in a kindergarten class, asked if, when somebody said he was the superintendent, they said, is he the superintendent of the world? And so I said yes, because that seemed like the only good response. So it's been really fun to see Dr. Summers interact with all the students. It has been fun when I've been with Mrs. Rooks with her to see her old teachers and reconnect with them in that way. So that's been really wonderful. I have loved all the mottos that have come out of it, which I know you're capturing and will be bringing back to us. But I think one of them was, there is no makeup day, right? For the students, there is no makeup day with student achievement. And that it was kind of their motto that they look at it is there is no makeup day. So every single day, and that's the way that we bring the community into, even if you're not in school, what are you doing to stay on track? And with parents in that, we don't have that time. We need to be working for every student's success every single day. And we wouldn't have gotten that A if all of you had not already been doing that. And so those are some of the things that I really love hearing that fill my cup each and every time I come to your schools. So I was also, real quickly before I forget, Veterans Day, Dwight Amory of the, he's a post, Danielle, you can tell me.
American Legion.
He's from American Legion. They're trying to write 10,000 cards to send to all the veterans. So if you're wondering why there's a table out there that's got Christmas cards and stuff, I believe this was sent out to their schools, but you could grab a card, fill it out, just say thank you to our veterans, and then you can leave it, and then I'll make sure it gets over to his post, anybody who fills one out tonight. So, but they're just really trying to get thank you cards out to 10,000 veterans, so which I think is pretty cool. So I was at the business network meeting, and that was really great because we were talking to a lot of our leaders about the bond, and it didn't pass, and what's next, and what could we have done better, and that type of thing. So we've captured really good feedback, and I'd like to continue those conversations with lots of different folks within the community to build support. So I think those things are really important, and I'm sure I've been other places, but I can't really remember at this point since it's been so well. But anyway, I really appreciate all of the school visits. And I also want to say that every time we go to a school visit, we always extend our time because the leaders keep saying, oh, I wanted to show you this. Oh, I wanted to show you this. And even the students that let us around, they're like, oh, I want to take you to this teacher's room. I want to take you to this teacher's room. And principal saying, we don't have time to go to all of these teachers' rooms. But that just says, again, everything about how hard you are working and how much of an inspiration you are to our students and all of the great things that are happening. And I can't wait to continue to come back to the sites. So thank you.
President Sandoval, if I may, I just forgot one thing.
Sure, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you to Landa for Peoria High School. I know that you worked really hard too in your years as principal there. So I saw you here tonight, and I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you, President Sandoval.
No, thank you for that.
Clerks.
That's okay. Well, thank you both. Yeah, so clearly it's, as a board, it's, for me, it is just proud to be part of this board of individuals who are so engaged and in willingness to visit sites and to learn more. And so thank you both for that. So that said, yes, site visits on many, it is absolutely inspiring to watch the students as they're learning in the classroom, and and those students who did guide us through our tours, again, even at the elementary level, very confident and articulate. So it is really neat to see. I want to thank you, Dr. Summers, and Nicole Donner, actually. I know she was, certainly very involved and putting all the site visits together, making sure that we were all scheduled. And but I also want to thank you for doing this, because when we are on your sites, what I love is the conversations that we have with leadership, listening to learn more about what's going great, yes, but also where the opportunities exist, whether it's at their site or even at the district level. So I do appreciate you creating the space for all of these sites to have those types of conversations. It does go a long way with respect to the culture in Peoria Unified and growing and developing trusting teams. So I really appreciate that. Moving on to Veterans Day. So, you know, I attended the Veterans Day event that, you know, one of our really strong partners puts on, the city of Peoria, there at Rio Vista Park on Monday. And, you know, I just, again, students, you know, we had students on site who attend Peoria schools. They're in the Boy Scouts, and they presented the colors. But I've always been very grateful for the relationship that we have with the city of Peoria. I do want to give a quick shout out to Councilmember Patena, as he is the one who spearheaded, you know, that memory wall that we have there at Rio Vista Park, which actually where my father is etched in with his service as a World War II veteran. So I absolutely appreciate Mr. Patena in doing that. So just a great day, great event. Again, involved not only a partnership with the city, but you know, seeing, you know, students on Veterans Day as well. The Met Business Advisory Meeting. So I'm the liaison between the board and the Met. We had a business advisory meeting this week, and you know, I've said it a multitude of times, but they had a student present at the Met. He's in the medical assisting program. He's a senior. He's been part of the Met for 3 years, and you know, if I didn't know better, if I didn't know beforehand that he was a student, I would have thought he was a physician when he walked in. The way he spoke and his confidence that he had, it was just amazing. So just, you know, they're growing in number of students that are attending those courses or that classwork or those programs there at the Met. So again, Peoria Unified is rich in programs, and Met is certainly one of those. And lastly, I want to congratulate the newly elected board members into this seat. I want to wish them well, wish them much success, you know, as they sit in this very important seat. Dr. Summers?
Yes,
next,
sir.
sir. If no other board member comments or recognitions?
I would like to say one last thing, sorry.
Okay.
I'm chit-chatty tonight. I don't know if I'll be at the next board meeting. It's my son's music band concert. Yes, band concert. So I won't get the opportunity, but I would like to say thank you, David Sandoval, for your years of service, a lot of the hours that you volunteered for this position, and also to your family and the sacrifices that they had to make for you to be here to support the schools in the district. So thank you.
Thank you for that. That means a lot. I appreciate that. Landa, you almost made me cry. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. That means a lot. Sure.
That's great. Let's celebrate some athletic accomplishments for a moment. We have several that we would like to shout out as we wrap up the fall season, and are actually, I believe this evening we have Sunrise Mountain that's participating in the semifinals for 5A volleyball. So good luck to them, and that's just one of many. So I'd like to, I have a few notes here, congratulate Coach Tenbarge and Centennial High School boys golf. The Coyotes earned their second consecutive section championship this season. Additionally, student athletes Brady Ruddle and Jacob Robles secured spots in the state championship tournament that took place earlier today. So way to go, Coyotes. Another congratulations to Sasha Tihore and Alyssa Ridgely from Ironwood High School on being named the Division II badminton doubles state champions. This is Ironwood's 4th state Division II title in 5 years. Furthermore, Ironwood teammates Sophia Tihore and Mariah Peoria, took home the title of state runners-up for doubles, and Madison Nguyen was named the Division II singles state runner-up. And finally, Ironwood High School pulled off a repeat of their state badminton team's title. So congratulations to Coach Brett Stafford and the entire team on this noteworthy accomplishment. Liberty High School senior Henry Hank Dilworth finished as the AIA Division I Boys Cross Country State runner-up, so congratulations to him and all of our fall athletes. In addition to Liberty High School senior Zeke Rayborn on 2024 AIA Division I diving state champion, back-to-back state championships for Zeke. So way to represent the Lions, and congrats to Coach Conti as well. I'm going to shout out all of our high schools. As was mentioned a little bit earlier, we had the My Life Day yesterday. So just an incredible day where we have about 2,600 eighth graders who attended from our feeders into their respective high schools, an opportunity to learn about the clubs, classes, and experiences that await them after promotion and connect with their future teachers. So thank you all to working together to make that particular event happen. And then in the arts education space, I would also like to congratulate Miss Michelle Stoffy at Peoria High School and our Director of Arts Education, Mr. Robert Panzer. Both have received awards from Arizona Thespians for their meaningful contributions to the education of theater students in our schools. Congratulations to them both on these major achievements. We look forward to celebrating more in the future. I also want to provide an update that the Office of English Language Acquisition Services has completed their corrective action follow-up monitoring visit for Peoria Unified. This actually occurred last week, and I'm pleased to report that in our debrief, we passed with flying colors. So I want to congratulate all involved in that effort. Special kudos to Dr. Hernandez, Carrie Burns, Gail Miller, our EL coordinator, as well as Centennial High School, Ironwood High School, Sunrise Mountain, Marshall Ranch, Peoria Elementary, and Santa Fe Elementary. Those were the 6 sites that were visited, selected really at random. And the outstanding noticings that the visiting team was able to share with us just are a testament to a lot of hard work, a lot of, I won't say blood, but a lot of sweat and probably tears, and to be able to evidence that we are achieving at a level that we will continue to build upon and move into the future is a great celebration. And then I will actually close with also a comment on just an expression of appreciation for all of our district residents who participated in our recent election, including those who supported our bond initiative and those who took the time to engage with the issues impacting our schools. I also want to recognize and thank all the candidates who put themselves forward to serve on our governing board. Their dedication to our community and commitment to education are deeply valued. As we await the final canvass on Thursday, November 21st, we will continue to focus on our district's most pressing needs and look forward to sharing an update on both our capital plans and future strategic plan, as well as next steps with our new governing board in early 2025. So thank you again to everyone involved for your support and engagement. And Mr. Sandoval, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. So before we move on, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to get out of here if you want to. I'm just kidding. If you want to stay, you're more than welcome to, but it's entirely up to you. We'll pause for a second. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you. Gotcha. Okay. We will continue along our agenda. All right, moving down to those items removed from consent. 6.1, personalized opt-in admissions data agreement between Grand Canyon University and the Peoria Unified School District. This item does have public comment tied to it. Is there any, I think in this case, we'll go through public comment, any board comments, and then the district can engage at that point? Okay. All right, like I said, we have one public comment tied to this line item, and that comes from Mr. Jeff Toby. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. Just on this one, I noticed that the one comparable to it, the GCU contract, what they have in there is they have a PII clause when it talks about deleting information of our students that's no longer needed. ASU's doesn't have that, and I know that they cite in the contract that the CFR that they cite specifically allows for our PII of our students to be shared with ASU for the study purposes. I would like to see either some type of time limitation or some type of guarding of that PII and deletion when it's no longer needed. So I know that the CFR says that we can share that information, but I think we just need to take a little bit of care as far as that information. Is it anonymized, which it doesn't seem like it is in the contract, but maybe providing a 30, 60, 90-day clause in there as far as use the material, use their student information for the studies that we require, and then dispose of it or anonymize it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Board members, questions, comments? Mrs. Rooks?
Yeah, I pulled both of these because I just had a couple of questions, I guess. Pertaining to this one, I read through the document. I just want to completely confirm that we would have parent permission first before any data is shared. And then it has on here confidential data means student data, student education records, and any data protected under FERPA. Would that also include the recent MTSS, I guess, student behavior side? All of the things that are documented in that, would that be included in the confidential data?
Mr. Sandoval, Mrs. Rooks, thank you for the question. The data that is shared is really simply just the data and information that is required to determine eligibility or readiness for a four-year university. So to the PII component, absolutely, we can look into putting some particular deadlines and approaches to that, and absolutely. We are going to put our own safeguards in place. I recognize that Grand Canyon's has an opt-in form. We will absolutely follow the opt-in process for sure. And specifically to 6.1, which is Grand Canyon's, I'll speak directly to that. We will ensure that a process is in place to make that happen.
Okay, and when that opt-in form is presented to the families, the parents, will it have in there, I guess what was kind of just brought up of at a certain point, this information of your student will be deleted, I guess is what, I just want to make sure like it's communicated on the form of what the college will get, how long they will have it for, what is that process for deleting? I don't know if that's going to be, I guess, on the parent opt-in form.
So the opt-in form essentially allows Grand Canyon University to evaluate the information, and then it's up to the family with the opt-in form, should they be qualified or determined as ready and eligible to enter a four-year university, in this case Grand Canyon. The information that is shared beyond that is working directly with the families to complete the actual admission process. So the idea here is to essentially provide a clearer pathway for students to enter a four-year university. But a lot of the responsibility after the opt-in, after the data is shared specific to readiness for the university, then is on the responsibility of the family to complete that process. And that information shared is only really what's usable to determine a course of study or determine eligibility, to connect with admissions, which is the family's responsibility at that part, to then determine what kind of the course pathway and university design that they are going to be participating in.
Okay. And so when they are looking at those students, they first need to get permission from the parents to look at their educational records to see if they're college career ready.
That's
Is that-
correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's, I mean, I just want to make sure that that's, because when we're talking about data sharing, I know Dr. Hernandez is over there too shaking her head. I just want to make sure that that information is really outlined for the parents of what is actually going to be shared with the colleges. And then how long that they have that information for. I do think, yeah, like I do think there should be a time limit. I know that this is just 6.1, but just for both, maybe just to have a time limit. I don't know if there's a way to do that, just so that we are keeping track of where all of the data is going. So that's my only comment.
Okay, thank you for that. Mrs. Ewing?
I like this. I know a lot of other, I think you explained to me that a lot of other, whether it's high schools, and we're doing this with a lot of, are doing this to just help remove any barriers that our students have with getting to college, and that this just helps. I think oftentimes our parents don't always know, and our students don't always know, that they are well qualified and well prepared to attend beyond our walls, and anything we can do to help uplift the families and uplift the students to be able to say, hey, you are ready and you are eligible should you decide that this is the path that's good for you, I think is great. And I think it's a great opportunity. And then I can also say that I know that we have a lot of students who go through like the dual enrollment process, and so they're kind of accepted into those schools when they go through that dual enrollment process. And so this just provides another pathway for our students. So I'm excited about it. I certainly understand that our families, maybe through the FAFSA process, when they fill that out, being made aware that this is an opportunity that they have to be able to see if their students are ready to go on to the next journey through education. I think this is a great opportunity, so thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ewing. Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, I think these opportunities are certainly, you know, kind of ensure success beyond our walls without question. But I do just want to be sensitive to, you know, the public comment and some comments already made. Be with fellow board members, you know, as we take a look at, I mean, I get it from a data perspective, right? So fundamentally, the this line item, yes, the focus is on student success, but from a data perspective, you know, do we see, you know, any concerns around the data as it relates to it, you know, maybe being filed for, you know, too long of a time, or just how it's shared and potential of it being not lost, but potential of it being, you know, grabbed, you know, by you know, external users, I guess is my question. I mean, do we see any concerns there is my question.
Mr. Sandoval, thank you for the question. I don't see any particular issues. You know, as I follow up with our partners with each university, you know, certainly I will inquire a little deeper into our requests and actually demand that we have a specific timeline. In reading through both of the agreements, there are secure servers that are uploaded very similar to our student information system, how we have the security components to it. I think what's important is just to have an understanding that what really is the intent is to determine the eligibility. So whatever information that is presented to them to determine their eligibility for approval for admissions really is what is being primarily used. In terms of the other information, we can absolutely check and ensure that those processes and systems are, A, not only secure, but have a timeline for the useful life of what its purpose is for.
No, thank you for that. No, and I know internally, I mean, we're really sensitive, from a redundancy perspective, ensuring that, all the data that we have is protected. And I would imagine when we talk about a ASU or a GCU, I mean, theirs are even more robust. So I appreciate the comment there. Mrs. Ricks, did you?
Yeah, I had one more question kind of following up that and then reading the background information. So it says here that GCU would proactively offer student admittance, I guess, and it's up to the student to accept that offer. So I guess walk me through the process of how do they proactively look at each student? Are we giving them access, like are we having the parents fill out the permission form first for then GCU to go look at that student, or are they looking at him previously? I guess that's kind of where I was reading that line.
Mr. Ricks, thank you for the question. Our process will be that we will reach out to all of our seniors to determine whether or not they have an interest in attending one of our universities. That's kind of our first part, to see if they're interested in attending one of our universities that are listed in either of these two agreements. The second part will be that, based off of our timeline right now, we're going to build out a particular system by which we can get acknowledgement or opt-in from the families. At that point in time, the group of people who have opted in to then give us permission and authorization to share the information with the university, that will happen. In the fundamental kind of idea of this is that Grand Canyon, in this particular case, makes an assumption that all students are admitted to the university up front, right? Based off of when we receive the authorization to share the data, then their admissions team will evaluate whether or not they actually do meet the criteria, whether it's GPA, course requirements, et cetera, et cetera. And then at that point in time, the university then reaches out directly to the family via correspondence, and they complete the rest of the process from there.
Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think just looking at just the Dr. Summers, I think you understand what I'm saying, just the timeline of how long they keep that data, especially when the student is moving along through their college career, or if they've graduated, just how long are they keeping that data would just be important to understand and note. And that was it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
No, you're good. Thank you, Mrs. Ricks. If no further questions, comments, I do need a motion to approve the personalized opt-in admissions data agreement between Grand Canyon University and the Peoria Unified School District.
I will motion to approve the personalized opt-in admissions data agreement between Grand Canyon University and the Peoria Unified District as presented.
I'll second that. We have a motion made by Mrs. Ewing, a second by myself. Board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes with 3 yeas and 1 absent. Thank you, board members. All right, moving on to 6.2. Data sharing agreement between the Arizona Board of Regents for and on behalf of the ASU Helios Decision Center for Educational Excellence and the Peoria Unified School District. We don't have any public comment tied to this, but Mrs. Ricks, I think this is an item that you wanted to take a deeper dive into.
Yes. So this one I was trying to read through and I didn't see that parent opt in the language of the contract. So I don't know if I just missed it or if that is something that you can touch on, Mr. Nuttall, with this agreement.
Yes, Mrs. Ricks, thank you for the question. As I noted in the prior item, what we are working to do is, based off of the timing of our school year right now, we will work with our student information system, Mr. Molino's team, Dr. Hernandez's team, to ensure that we have a system set up for the acknowledgement process in advance. So we do have a plan of action to make it a more permanent acknowledgement prior to students starting the school year in next year and subsequent year. But in this particular time, we have a mechanism by which we can get authorization and opt-in. You didn't miss it. It is not written into this agreement. And so we've taken it upon ourselves as an administrative team to ensure that we're going to put a system in place to make that happen prior to any data sharing going out.
Okay. Is it possible to, once that's added in, to bring it back to the board just so that it's, I don't know if it can be added in as an addendum with the language of the contract. I don't know if that's possible.
Mr. Ricks, thank you. I can certainly ask the question. In speaking with Dr. O'Reilly, who is the director at the Center for Educational Excellence, I spoke with him in the past couple of days. We do have some leeway by which we decide to operate within this, specifically to your point about the opt-in piece, though it's not written into here. So we can absolutely look to work something into an agreement. But please know, I just want the board and the community to know that administration really values the same things that you value in terms of ensuring that everybody is well in the know and gives us authorization to share the data. So it's embedded into our own system as our process to then get that opt-in acknowledgement up front.
Okay. I don't know if this is like a silly question to ask, but I guess why was it not then added into the agreement tonight? I guess I don't understand. Like, I'm just not understanding if it was not added right now tonight when we're voting on contract language. That's just where I'm having kind of a hard time with.
I don't think I know really the exact answer to your question. I'll give it a shot and see how
Okay.
it goes. I don't think it's a silly question at all.
Okay.
The Decision Center or the Center for Educational Excellence is through the Arizona Board of Regents, which represents ASU, University of Arizona, and NAU. My guess is that this is a boilerplate template that they provided. And so I think as a larger kind of organization, the Center for Educational Excellence is really kind of the third party to hold and house all of the data, as is outlined here. Based off of whether or not they qualify for any or all of the three universities, that's when the actual data sharing happens. What we're saying is, even though it's not explicitly stated in this agreement, what we're saying is before any data is shared with the Center for Educational Excellence, we will ensure that we have the acknowledgement and opt-in. I'll also just say that if the board's advice or challenge to us, or if the direction the board wants to move us in is to table this for now to see if I can get the language put into the contract prior to December 14th, I can absolutely do that. The one piece is that we do have a little bit of a timeline. Although I think we're okay on the timeline, did speak with Dr. O'Reilly about this as well. If we need to see if we can't work some language in that brings in the opt-in, we can absolutely do that.
Okay. Yeah, I just would feel better with having that opt-in in the language, just because I know contract language, it just, yeah, that stands out to me. And I'm just surprised that it says here the agreement had been reviewed by district legal counsel. So I'm just surprised that they didn't see that too, just so that we all have eyes on it. And that I just would feel more comfortable with an opt-in in the language, just like the 6.1 had, so that our students and parents are aware of having to opt into both of the data sharing agreement and then the second part, which is the project, I guess. So that's what I would just feel more comfortable with.
Ms. Rooks and Dr. Summers, can I offer something as a potential option? Could we add an amendment that the board gives a directive that we approve this, but we give a directive that they put together a opt-in permission form so that we don't miss the timeline of the contract, but then it's in writing that the board is specifically giving the directive for the opt-in permission form. And I don't know if that's possible.
So I think the easiest way for me to answer that right now is that representing a material change to a contract. I don't want to speak on behalf of the ASU Center that they would, I'm sure they would be open to what we're saying, but of course that would take another iteration, which I think is fine to do. I think the other way we can look at this, and much to what Mr. Nettle is referring to, is it's really how do we operationalize the steps involved that Peoria Unified will assure are taking place, so that we're demonstrating our stance relative to how the data will be a function of the opt-in status, if that makes sense. So for us, it really becomes its own standard operating procedure that may be actually separate from the contract itself. Does that follow? So it's not something that necessarily would change materially the contract language. It would just be the way that we're implementing it. Does that follow? I'm reading your.
I mean, I just,
Mrs. Ricks?
I have a hard time. I mean, because we had our district legal counsel review this. I mean, I feel like when we're investing in a legal team to review these contracts, I would think that they would be aware of the opt-in language missing. So
I appreciate that. I will just say not necessarily, because I'm not sure that we guided them specifically with that focus in mind. So because this is and represents an effort to create the housing by which the data is accessed, it really isn't so much on our council to assure that unless we are instructing them to do so, which we certainly can do. And I think to the bigger point, it's fine to table this, to come back to it and say, this is what we want to make sure is part and parcel of whatever the contract is that we are agreeing to, because there may be room from an ASU perspective to incorporate that in, but it also ensures that we're taking the steps that are important to make sure that that opt-in piece is also included. And I think it's interesting that this contract is juxtaposed with the GCU contract, because there are some subtleties, right, or material changes with both. So, you know, the fact that we're having this conversation through those two different lenses lends itself to having a really close view on that.
Yeah, and I guess, I'll agree with that, Mr. Nodal. I mean, if we do have the liberty to table this, knowing that we have another meeting on December 12th, well, I do have faith and trust in the district to, you know, its primary focus is always to protect, you know, our students. You know, I think also having that faith and trust, you know, coming from our families, you know, as they take a look at these policies to ensure that is the case. So if we have that flexibility, you know, I would absolutely support tabling this until next meeting.
yeah, thank you.
So with that said, I need a motion to table.
I motion we table
Go
6.2. Sorry, I thought you were wanting a motion. Okay, I'll motion to table 6.2.
All right, I'll second that.
Clerk Sandoval, members of the board and cabinet and guests, please give me a moment to make those updated changes.
Okay. And just to be clear, there's a motion by Mrs. Rooks and a second by myself, made by myself.
While we're waiting, the ASU Helios Decision Center is an amazing center. Can we set up a tour for our board there? Because it is a really amazing center.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you for your patience. I am ready to proceed.
All right, board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes with 3 yeas and 1 absent. Thank you, board members. All right, moving on to discussion items. 8.1, we do have public comment tied to this item. Typically what we do is we'll allow the district to present, go through public comment, and then any board member questions or comments, and we'll proceed from there. So, Ms. Vesely, actually.
I believe we,
Yeah,
Dr.
this
Summers,
is
we
being tabled, sorry.
tabled.
That's correct.
So we need a motion to table, correct?
So you already made that as part of the approval of the agenda. And because it's a discussion item, you don't have to take another action on that this evening.
Okay.
What we can do, Mr. Sandoval, with the public comment attached is upon which time the item will be brought forward again for future consideration, we'll hold to that comment and incorporate that in a future meeting.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to 8.2, first read of policy section IGA. Dr. Hernandez.
Good evening, Clerk Sandoval, members of the board, Dr. Summers, cabinet, and guests. This evening's first read of policy IGA is a recommendation to remove language requiring certified personnel to serve on curriculum committees, as there is no statutory basis for its inclusion in our policy. And I'm available to answer any questions should you have any.
All right, board members, questions, comments? Ms. Ricks?
No, I don't think so. I guess maybe just they can still have that opportunity if they want to serve on that committee, correct?
Correct, Mrs. Rooks. So our teachers and our leaders choose to serve on our committees because it is the work. They are excellent at recommending resources for our learners and continue to be learners and leaders themselves. It isn't because it's written in policy that they choose to do those things to support our students.
Okay. No, I'm all good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Ricks. Mrs. Ewing, any questions, comments?
I'm assuming, Dr. Hernandez, that we've talked with our teachers and there's not any concerns there or so forth with our certified staff being taken off the policy.
So to be clear, Mrs. Ewing, the policy is just saying it's not required of them in the professional space. And when we request the opportunity for teachers to participate in various committees, they choose to sign up for that work because it is the right work and they are the right people to do that work. And so having it in policy, there's no statutory basis to require them to participate in those things. And it's not a challenge that we have in Peoria. Our educators and leaders step up to the plate when we ask them to support this important work.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't have any questions. Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. All right, moving on to 8.3, first read of policy section IMG. Dr. Hernandez.
Good evening, Clerk Sandoval, members of the board, Dr. Summers, cabinet, and guests. This evening's first read of policy IMG reflects language that is updated and clarified based on the Americans with Disabilities Act, along with Arizona Revised Statute 11-1024, which speaks to service animals, along with Arizona Administrative Code R13-13-104, which speaks to the minimum standards for school bus operations. These changes in the policy reflect addressing service animals in our schools, and I am available to answer any questions should you have any.
Thank you for that. Questions, comments, board members? Mrs. Rooks?
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Ewing?
I don't have any, thank you.
Yeah, and I don't have any either. Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. All right, moving on to 8.4, first read of policy section JFABC. Mr. Nuttall.
Clerk Sandoval, members of the governing board, policy JFABC incorporates recommended language changes as a result of recent amendments to Arizona Revised Statute 15-701.04. The recommended changes provides language to ensure that both credit calculation and credit award for transfer students who are foster students is articulated. This is specific to students in grades 9 through 12. Just note that since our high schools are on block scheduling, this process is already in place for all of our students who transfer in. You may know that most other school districts are on a traditional 6-period, 7-period schedule, and so we have already put all of these components in place, so this is already embedded in other policies. IKF, IKFR, and IKFC. And I'd just like to note, Tara, if you can scroll down to the bottom page, I've cross-referenced in red line those policies that we already have the approaches to transfer students already. So available for any questions should you have any.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Nettle. Board members, questions, comments? Mrs. Rooks?
No questions or comments. This looks good, so thank you.
Mrs. Ewing?
I don't have any. I remember having all these discussions before when we talked about those other policies.
Thank you, board members. Thank you, Mr. Nettle. All right, moving on to public comment. 9.1, request to address the governing board regarding matters not included on the agenda. Although I know we made some concessions, there's a couple items on here that will be expressed in public comment that is on a line item further down. I see no need this evening. I think as we recognize everybody to read our public rules of conduct. We will spend 3 minutes per individual. First public comment comes from Mr. Jeff Toby.
I don't know if I put in one for this one, but okay? I think
So you put it in
10.1.
for 10.1,
Oh, is that
and then
gonna
we
fall
moved
into
it
this
to
one?
public. So I don't know if that was explained. So those of you, we typically don't have public comment on informational reports. So what we did is we moved your public comment to public comment
Understood.
on that line item.
Yeah, thank you very much. So on the Department of Education and School Safety Program mini grant opportunity, I just wanted to kind of walk through a little bit of some of what I'm thinking with this mini grant. I do understand, my understanding of reading through the material is that our district has the opportunity to request an officer, a police officer, social worker, or counselor. I would like to see officers be applied for in this grant. My understanding is that we applied for additional social workers, but I did want to make it aware, or at least bring it up, that even if the city of Glendale and the city of Peoria do not have the staffing to provide a grant-funded position number dedicated to a school site, those funds are able to become into the SSO program to where we can hire off-duty officers to fill those needs. And since this is a mini grant opportunity extension, I would like to see us apply for the law enforcement section of that, namely because the ADE specifically said that they're going to prioritize law enforcement requests or requests for off-duty officers first, even before they get down to the further line items. So I think to better our chances as a district to being awarded this grant and implementing this money in our schools, we should probably change the scope of our focus to applying for officer positions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toby. All right, next public comment comes from Ms. Teddy Todd. And you also selected 10.1, Ms. Todd.
Well, good evening, everyone. And yes, it was explained to me why things switched around a bit, which was new information for me. I too had the concern that we need, oh yes, I'm a short person, that SROs are absolutely critical, and I know that the few that we have been split more than 2 ways with elementary, sometimes 4, sometimes 8, which gives them little time to go in. But my understanding was this has already been written and submitted for social workers. I don't know your timelines. I do not know if it can be appealed and changed. As Jeff is mentioning, that we'd have more opportunity to have it approved if it was SROs. I'm not sure what that is. And in terms of accountability and data for these programs, it would be good if we as a community would know those answers as to what the social workers have accomplished at this point. And I would also be concerned between licensure and certification. Going from 33 that we already have to 40 is too many, in my opinion. I would like to see the study that is done that shows that we absolutely need this and it's a priority in terms of money. And my concern is this is still a part of that temporary Band-Aid. These grants go away, the money's not there, people are hired. It's very difficult to have a conducive culture to work when you don't know how long your job is even going to last. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Todd. All right, next public comment comes from Ms. Becky Smith. Welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that the silent majority has spoken again, not just in our district, but in our entire country. A big thanks to Heather for taking so much heat and hate over the past couple of years, people telling you you had no one supporting you, but clearly you do. I know it hasn't been easy. I admire your strength and your unwavering consistency with where you stand. Like, we know where you stand. There's never any question of that. And I don't think that if we address issues in our district that that's negative or hate for the district. I actually think it's constructive criticism and that we should strive to bring these issues to light to create solutions so that we can be the best district that we can be. And I am looking forward to what the board will do in the future. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Next public comment comes from Ms. Janelle Bowles.
Before the time
So,
starts,
go ahead.
you're probably going to answer my question. Go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, I know you also put in for 10.1, so you're more than welcome to speak on both.
I won't speak long on that. I'd rather address something else because what Ms. Todd said and Mr. Toby said is exactly what I would have said, that we need to be applying for. First of all, I do want to say thank you to whoever applied for the grant. I've written grants. They're not easy. Sometimes even to read what they actually are wanting, you have to almost, be looking in the future, and that's sometimes difficult. So thank you for that and looking for other ways to fund programs. We don't need any more social workers. I really feel like, and this is my background and many years of working with counselors and social workers, we got to strive for excellence, and we first need to keep our kids safe. So I'll just leave that alone. The other item that I have has to do with Title IX, something that wasn't addressed. That first of all, Title IX is here, and we are not covered. I'm just going to read verbatim what is on this piece of paper, and then let you guys decide. The new rule means that sex-separated sports school boards, can you hear me? Should know that the Biden-Harris administration has made clear, even before it issued the new rule, that it interprets Title IX to require schools to allow males who identify as females to compete in women's and girls' sports, and the refusal to do so could constitute unlawful discrimination. See DOJ Statement of Interest in BPJV, West Virginia State Board of Education. A couple of things that I just want to address, again, that were not addressed in this, that is staring us in the face. If school districts do not comply, they risk losing their federal funding. So talking about a grant, that's a state grant, might be a better, thing to be talking about. But one thing that was looked over, or maybe just not talked about, that includes free and reduced lunch. That is, to me, a strong arm, cold-blooded. I don't really know what to say to that. Hopefully, the new administration in Washington will change some of that, and we can accommodate everyone. But we got to keep our kids safe and explore other ways to fund locally. And there are ways. There are ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowles. All right, that was our last public comment, so that concludes this line item. We'll move on to 10.1, report on status of Arizona Department of Education School Safety Program mini grant opportunity. Dr. Summers.
Thank you, Mr. Sandoval, Governing Board. So this is an informational item at this time, does not require board approval. However, the purpose of this item is to update the Governing Board as well as our community on the status of the Arizona Department of Education School Safety Program mini grant. So I'm going to read a little bit here and then we'll be happy to share this information. The Arizona Revised Statute 15-154 outlines the school safety program, also known as SSP, its purpose, and both the program proposal and annual reporting requirements. The statute states that a school district may apply to participate in the SSP, and the SSP was initiated in Arizona in 1994. On March 30th, 2023, the governing board held a study session. At the time, Chief Student Services Officer Dr. Davidson presented information to the governing board summarizing current and future grants within the Student Services Department. Included in the presentation was Peoria Unified's participation in the ADE School Safety Program grant. In April of 2023, all schools in Peoria Unified, except for one, applied for school social workers or school mental health counselors. Grant applications are school-specific, which means awarded schools must employ the positions for which they were awarded only. These positions can only serve at the awarded schools. 33 of the 41 schools who applied were awarded at that time the 3-year SSP grant. Those 33 positions, all currently filled, will be sunset in June of 2026. Fast forward to April 4th, 2024, the governing board held a study session. At that time, Mr. Nuttall presented an update to the governing board, also summarizing the status of the current and future grants within the Student Services Department. The presentation provided a detailed summary of the current breakdown of staff, as well as specific grant requirements for the SSP grant. On October 21st, 2024, the Arizona Department of Education reopened the School Safety Program, SSP mini grant. This mini grant opportunity is for 1.5 years. The mini grant is set to begin in January of 2025 and will conclude in June of 2026. The mini grant opportunity follows the exact same criteria as the normal 3-year grant cycle application process, which Peoria Unified has been participating in for the last several years. There are 7 schools who have expressed interest in this most recent mini grant in applying for this SSP mini grant. That includes Cactus, Liberty, Oakwood, Park Ridge, Sunset Heights, Vistancia, and Frontier. Each school principal of these campuses was provided the opportunity to express which position they wished to apply for from the options prescribed in the SSP guidance manual and application. Each school principal expressed the interest of applying for either a school mental health counselor or a school social worker. Additionally, each school principal engaged their site council to solicit feedback from their stakeholders. The deadline to submit the grant application for those 7, was Friday, November 8th. As with all grant applications, there is no guarantee of award. ADE has indicated that schools will be notified of the status of grant awards by December 10th, with the intent of mobilizing awarded positions as early as the start of second semester in January. In alignment with policy DD and DDA, district administration recommends that, pending potential notice of award in the coming weeks, the governing board consider approval of this award at its upcoming December regular meeting. So that's the comment. I'm happy to entertain any questions or anything else from the board at this time.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Summers. Questions, comments, board members? Ms. Ricks?
So I believe you stated that the award mini grant opened up on October 21st. Was that what you?
That's correct.
Okay. For me, I'm going to be honest here, it was a little disappointing to find out that submitted on Friday, the day of the deadline. If this had been open since October 21st, it would have been nice to be notified as a board member, to be updated of the plan. And I mean, it was already submitted. So it's kind of like, in my opinion, just completely bypassing, even having a discussion of what are the options. I can tell you that I know our mayor of Peoria has been working really hard trying to find ways to bring school liaison officers at our elementary schools. And so having that partnership with him, it's a little frustrating to not have that opportunity to brainstorm ideas. I've talked to a few teachers. One in particular really shared that the social worker at their school, while they value them as a person, they have not seen for the past few years of this any improvement in student behavior. And so for me, that stands out. And this is a teacher that's been there for many years at this school. So that stands out. And I can tell you that this teacher shared with me that the times that she has seen where students have shifted and they have almost changed their behavior on campus is when the school liaison officer has been on campus. So for me, it's more of this was just a very big disappointment to not be able to have that opportunity to have those discussions, to work with our cities, looking at helping with the stretch of our school liaison officers having to be shared between so many different schools. And like the school safety grant does allow opportunity for off-duty officers that are retired. So I just really am disappointed that there was no opportunity to have that discussion if it was already opened on October 21st. And just finding out about it 2 days ago, I just personally, it's a big disappointment for me. I've had 4 years of researching every grant narrative for all of the schools. I've seen everything that's put in there. I've seen a lot of discrepancies where it's mentioned that there's nowhere for students to be seen for services, whether they've been having addiction problems, drug addiction, alcohol abuse. It's been mentioned that there's nowhere for them to be seen. And I just find that hard to believe because we have so many great organizations through our district. We have Southwest Behavioral Health, we have Mind 24/7. I know that a few community members have gone to some of our fairs that we've hosted in the district, and there's mental health, counseling organizations that have said, yeah, we have openings. We will see families. So for me, I want the best care for those students. And if they are going through those things and the parents are seeing that, they should be seeing a licensed professional to get that actual care. That's always been my philosophy of this is a school district. We are still trying to come back from COVID. We're trying to help these kids with their proficiency, with reading, with math. And now we want to tackle on if they have mental health situations going on. I just feel like that is such a huge thing to tackle on. And hearing from parents who have pulled their kids because of the social workers working with their kids without permission, and hearing them on the phone in tears because their kids are now having to get actual medical attention and help because of what was discussed with them. I just think that this is a huge line that you can't go back from. We are going into a child's mental state. And if we mess up, if somebody doesn't get permission, it's not a, well, whoops, we'll refix it. It's a child's mental state. And that is why a licensed professional in a safe environment with that parent present is vital to help that child's mental state. So for me, this is just kind of disappointing. So I just wanted to be honest. I think that we have more opportunity to share with parents that are needing resources, all of the different organizations out there that say that they have openings, helping them connect to that. And so I just think we're taking on too big of a thing that I don't want that on my conscience if we mess up a child's mental state.
Thank you, Mrs. Rooks. Ms. Ewan, any questions, comments?
So I would encourage all of our community members to go back and listen to a couple meetings ago when we had our entire mental health community, our staff, not mental health, our school counselors here talking about all the things that they do and the ways that they're involved with our students. So there's just real clear understanding of what they're providing. We've sat in, and Heather, Ms. Rooks, I know that you and I have very different perspectives, and I appreciate your compassion and concern for our students, and I recognize that and I respect it. I also am, I can't ignore the voices of our administrators and the administrators who've told us that their parents in their communities are asking for those services. So I can't ignore that voice as well. So I think we'll have to figure out some way to come together where everyone is, where our students are all served so that they can, because I do think the focus needs to be on the academic success and how are we measuring any of our interventions that are happening with students to make sure that they're focused on student success. And I am hearing with every school visit, when they have, whether it's chronic absenteeism or behavior issues, of the effort that it takes by all staff to be able to help improve that student academic growth or proficiency. I'm hearing that they're an integral part of that. Then moving away from that piece of it, Dr. Summers, I think it's helpful to clarify in the, unless there's language that's shifted, I know it's shifted a little bit with regards to the SROs. I believe in the initial one, it could only be an SRO that is designated just for one campus, which is why we ended up doing the agreement with the city of Peoria for the SLOs, where we paid a portion of that, and then the city of Peoria graciously partnered with us on that, and also helped with staffing that to also, versus what Mr. Toby was mentioning, an actual law enforcement. So I know there's quite a difference between an SRO, an off-duty policeman, an SRO, and then an actual law enforcement. So I was just curious if you could clarify those differences and if that's how that's included or allowed in the grant.
Mr. Sandoval, Mrs. Ewing, Governing Board, the grant is open to positions, law enforcement roles that include school resource officer, school liaison officer, and I would say the potential to employ a credentialed individual in those roles that could potentially be an off-duty individual. The specific requirement for a position assigned to each school is part of the expectation of the grant. I do want to stress that we have had and continue to have ongoing dialogue with our partners in law enforcement, and based on their feedback, the concern that has been expressed, and part of why those specific roles were not pursued is a function of the ability to staff those roles, as well as the nature of the funding source, in that if those individuals were brought on to function in that capacity, then our feedback from the department has been that they're not able to be sustained in the event that that funding would no longer be there. So that's part of the conversation that is taking place. Of course, we want to continue to explore those opportunities and those efforts. I would add that based on those eligible roles, then each school principal really, in collaboration, I will stress again, having those conversations with their site councils is part of what framed the ask. And then just adding one more dimension, and Mr. Rooks, I appreciate the frustration, disappointment, if you will, with the timing. What I would and want to make sure to lift up there is most optimally in a situation where we have the ability to bring forward to the board consideration prior to submission. We absolutely want to do that. That, based on current meeting schedule and those timeframes, in this particular case, was not what we were able to achieve. So there was no intent to neglect that step. It's now we're in a position of, upon that submission, awaiting awaiting notice, which, stressing again policy DD and DDA, the expectation is the governing board is to be kept informed of possible sources of state, federal, and other funds for the support of the schools and for the enhancement of educational opportunities, as well as the superintendent to apprise the board of its eligibility for general or program funds and to make those recommendations for board action. So certainly in this particular case, we're having the conversation. I appreciate it. It's maybe not in the most ideal timeframe. Sometimes we're in those positions, but I appreciate the feedback and what you've shared this evening.
Mr. Sandoval?
Yep,
if I
no,
may.
go ahead.
Two things, just to, so I don't lose train of thought. I know it was stated that the mini grant was opened on October 21st, and I would like to make note that we did have a board meeting on October 24th. So that's, I just went back and looked at our agenda. And then for me, it's also frustrating to hear from Melissa. I know you mentioned the board meeting where we had these social workers in the room, but it's frustrating because one of the parents spoke to one of the field instructors and asked some questions and had found out that a social worker can talk to a student for that very first time without getting parent permission. And then they can go to the parent and ask to keep seeing the student and get a form signed. So for me, I don't think that is, I don't think that's right. And I think that, again, I think that we are just starting to get into messing with child's mental state. That's something that it's damage and taking on that responsibility with they're unlicensed. So I don't feel comfortable with it at all.
Thank you, Mrs. Ricks, Mrs. Ewing. Yeah, I mean, for me, look, it's, I know the district continues to problem solve as it relates to, from a funding perspective and how it leverages its dollars to maximize on ensuring that our students are in the absolute best position to be successful throughout our district, and our teachers and staff as well. Public comment brought up, the possibility of, if this mini grant could actually earmark or set aside, monies for future, as cities of Peoria and Glendale, build capacity, right, from a personnel perspective. I don't know if that's, an opportunity, but, like I said earlier, I know the district continues to work with both cities, both municipalities to, again, to problem solve and figure this out. So I do appreciate that. I know both are on board with regard to, making sure that we're, fully staffed from a SLO perspective. That said, we just celebrated 40 of our 42 schools being A and B rated, and all of our high schools being A rated. And, I talked about a village, ensuring that happens. And our social workers are absolutely a part of that. Those grades are realized across, differences in socioeconomic status communities and different challenges in our communities. So the intentionality of the district, along with its village, which includes our social workers, to meet students where they are, to make sure that they're successful, it is working without question. I do appreciate the comment around, our partners who provide some of those services, but I think more from a tier 2 and tier 3 perspective. One of the things I just want to make sure that we continue to understand is that, when we take a look at our 35,000 plus students who all have different stories, we also have, our mini McKinney-Vento students, our foster kids, who may not have the ability to go to some of those offices, right, if they're unable to come on site. So, again, having that tier 1 approach and ensuring that our students are, successful in the classroom, engaging and involving parents in that process. Now, I am sensitive to Mrs. Rooks's comment around a parent and how that transpired. What I would recommend, and certainly, support would be the district meeting with that parent and understanding what those challenges are and becoming a solution and making sure that they have the peace of mind that what we are doing as a district is all centered around their student success. So all that said, I do appreciate the intentionality of taking a look at these opportunities, mini grants, et cetera, to continue to bring in these resources. As we move forward, I know there are some times and challenges, and from a timing perspective, and we need to stay in front of those. But just doing the best that we can to make sure, from a communicative perspective, is that all informed. It's with regard to what the district is doing. I know from a board member perspective, we don't get into the weeds, and so you have to make decisions very quickly. Right? So, I certainly continue to have trust and faith in the district to make those decisions on behalf of our students, teachers, and staff. So thank you for that. All right, if no further questions, comments on this line item, moving on to 10.2, report on upcoming meetings and events. Ms. Ari?
Good evening, Mr. Sandoval, members of the board. Just one quick item on the informational report this evening that I want to draw to your attention, and that is our Thanksgiving meals taking place at our school sites on Thursday, the 21st. Just a big shout out to our food service team that works tirelessly to serve so many meals. Oftentimes we do have members of our community, parents, grandparents that come in to celebrate Thanksgiving, and it's an opportunity to have discussions around gratitude with our learners. And so just want to offer that if a governing board member is wishing to join us for any of those, that they reach out to Mrs. Donner.
Thank you, Ms. Ari. 10.3, legislative, state, and local updates. I don't see Ms. Myers, but is that you, Ms. Ari, or Mr. Molina?
None tonight, sir.
Okay, thank you. 10.4, district budget report for the month of September. This is on our website for your viewing at your leisure. Other business, 11.1, board member opportunity to readdress agenda items. Mrs. Rick, any items that you'd like to readdress this evening?
Just board member comments. I want to congratulate Jeff Toby and Janelle Bowles and Becky Proudfit for being elected to the school board, and a thank you to the other candidates that ran for the election and all the hard work that I know it goes into. So that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Ricks. All right. Ms. Ewing, any items that you'd like to readdress?
I offer my congratulations beforehand, but I don't have anything additional to add. Thank you.
11.2, request for agenda items for future governing board meetings. Mrs. Ricks.
So I think I have just 3. So I would like to see the, I guess, the time frame of the student data for both of the 6.1 and I think it was 6.2 that we moved. Just that time frame of holding data of the student. What does that look like? If that can maybe be brought to the board. I don't know, Dr. Summers, if you have an idea, Friday report or an updated agenda item of just what we look at with that information.
Certainly. And then recognizing that 6.2 was tabled to the next meeting, we'll be able to provide that update both through the scope of the meeting in addition to any upcoming Friday reports.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Another one is I don't remember the date, but I know that it was probably about maybe 2 weeks ago, I want to say, where we had a lot of bus drivers call in sick And I know it affected a lot of the schools with bus routes, students not being able to get to school and trying to figure out how to get home. So I didn't know if there was an update that could come in a Friday report of, I guess, what happened and what are we trying to plan for when, if that happens again, so that there's, I guess, more communication to the families and a backup plan for our principals so that they can figure out that. I don't know if you remember when that happened, possibly. Dr. Summers.
Have a short update relative to what the occurrence was, as well as our efforts in working to address those solutions to minimizing any potential future impact. So we appreciate the reference to that, and I just want to make sure if there was anything in addition to what had been shared that wasn't clear, just making sure that I could speak to those specifics.
Okay, nope, that's totally fine. So thank you for that. I'll resend that one.
Thank you, ma'am.
Last one, I think I've requested it before, but I kind of wanted to change it a little bit. I'd like to have a future update, governing board meeting, and I know Ms. Myers isn't here, but the Medicaid reimbursement funds that we utilize in the district, what comes back, all of the different pieces, breaking that down of the past couple of years of the increase that we've had for the reimbursements, if that could be presented to the governing board. And I was looking at you, Dr. Summers, because I know Ms. Myers isn't here tonight, so.
Yes, and I believe this was something that surfaced, maybe not the last meeting, but in a prior meeting, so it is on our radar.
Okay.
And we are, in an effort to provide that clarity, we'll make sure that that is included, whether it's a separate item or kind of built into a larger overarching update relative to overall financial state.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Mrs. Ricks, so Dr. Summers, do you need a second for that, or you're?
Sure,
because you're already working-
you're welcome to, if
You're
you'd
already
like.
working on it?
We are, we're in process, and I believe it was formalized as, well, it may have came across as a different type of request, but we are
Right.
in the process of providing that information.
All right, that's good, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect, you're welcome.
And that was it, sorry.
All right, you're good. Ms. Ewing, any items that you'd like to request for
I
future
don't have
government?
any
Okay.
today.
I don't have any items either. All right, we will move down to 12.1, adjournment. Do you need a motion to adjourn this meeting at, it looks like 7:52 PM?
I will motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:52 PM.
I will second.
We have a motion made by Mrs. Ewing and a second by Mrs. Rooks. Board members, please cast your votes. And motion passes with 3 yeas and 1 absent. Thank you, board members. Thank you, everybody. Have a great Thanksgiving holiday.